It's time for the DecoShow again, and in this episode we have special guest Neil Pentland, CEO, Chairman and co-founder of DecoNetwork. He's here to talk about where we've come from, what we're doing today, and what we've got coming up next. All that and more coming up on the DecoShow. The DecoShow is brought to you by DecoNetwork, business software for printers and embroiderers. To find out more, visit DecoNetwork.com. Good morning, everyone. It's time for the Deco Show, episode 8, recorded September 1st, 2016. I'm Brenden, product manager and evangelist for DecoNetwork. And joining me for this episode is Mr. Mietek, general manager of DecoNetwork America. How are you, sir?
I am doing just fine. How are you today, Brenden?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, our Welsh friend Alex is not feeling too well. I'm going to declare him the first victim of Brexit, but he can't make
it. My line, come on.
Did I? That's why we don't rehearse. Yeah, he's not well today. So unfortunately, Alex isn't joining us, but we have a very special guest today, Neil Pentland, co-founder, chairman, and CEO of DecoNetwork. G'day, Neil.
G'day, Brenden, and good day to Mietek, and good day, everyone.
Currently in a US office.
Yep, I'm over here in Atlanta. It's a very different place to where we've moved from Whittier. Rather beautiful, actually, the environment around Atlanta, and I'm enjoying my stay. I'm here, so far I've been here 2 weeks, and I intend to be another 6 weeks before I head back to Oz.
It's been 3 weeks, actually. Yeah.
3.
3 weeks. Wow.
Enough said. A lot's happening.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. So we'll swing back to you a little bit later, Neil. We just want to obviously get your insights on where DecoNetwork is, where DecoNetwork has come from, and a little bit about where we're heading. But as always, we'll kick off with our general update on where we are in Decoland, and provide some hints and tips for Deco users out there. And then we'll come back and we'll have a bit of a chat.
Very good.
Very cool. All right, so a bit of an update. Of course, since the last podcast, we've had obviously 7.2 has rolled out and getting great feedback on that. So keep the feedback coming out in our community forums. And coming up next, we have a few pretty big new releases coming out, actually. The first one being version 7.5, which we've spoken a little bit about in the forums. And I guess probably best describe that as a bit of a rewrite of our internal engine around the graphic designer. So at the moment, we have our engine, which has 2 different modes, curl draw mode and non-curl draw mode. Well, we're adding a third option to that, which is a SVG engine. And if you've been onto our blog, actually, and just on the at DecoNetwork.com/blog, and just do a simple search for SVG, and up will pop 3 video previews that we've done, which highlight some of the new improvements through the SVG engine. We won't go through them in detail at the moment, but essentially our graphic engine has been completely rewritten, and the major advantage of SVG is the speed. So when you're in the online designer and you're typing text on screen or you're dragging things around, you're getting an instant preview of what those changes are, compared to the current engine where when you make a change to the text, there's that bit of a delay and you don't get that kind of instant response. Plus a whole stack of other improvements that come with that, like color detection, which is great for screen printing. So do recommend you go check that out. It's at DecoNetwork.com/blog. And if you're not subscribed as well, make sure you put your email address and name on the side. That way, when we do release these videos and updates, you get an email in your inbox, and you can go through and get an update on where we are going with different features and improvements as we go along. And we'll talk a little bit more about some other articles that have been written on that recently in our news article, which Neil's very excited about. He keeps saying it's the best newsletter we've ever done, so we'll give a bit of a preview of that in a moment as well. Second to that as well, obviously, we've been talking quite a bit about version 8. Which still we're not releasing a lot of the information about it, because obviously there's some great improvements we want to keep under the hats there and show you guys when we're closer to launch. But again, on our blog, if you do a search for DecoNetwork 8 responsive design, you get a quick preview of the new front end theme, which in this video, it's really just the architecture of the theme. It's not so much the look and feel and the style. That's the design part, which will come a bit later. But it shows you how the website resizes, how it's going to look on different devices, and to give you a bit of a taste on where we're going with version 8 as well. We'll be giving a few more updates as we go along on our blog and in our forums as well. So lots happening. And the other quick update before we jump into a couple of our tips, if you're not currently subscribed to our newsletter, we recommend you do that by heading over to DecoNetwork.com/newsletter. And we're always pumping out an issue. I think once a month now is our current issue schedule. And 46 has just gone out the door, which contains a lot of information, including some of the videos that I've just mentioned there, but also some great blog posts from Alex and the team, such as, creative ways to improve your sales. A question we get all the time, what can we do with abandoned carts, and how can we really improve your cart abandon rate on your website? Plus some profiles and overviews of some of our key partners, such as the Magic Touch in the UK, our Great Notion stock designs. You may not be aware, but we have over 29,000 embroidered, digitized designs ready for you to use on there, and over 15,000 vector designs from the Great Notions collection that you can add to your Deco website. Plus, of course, Wilcom and the great benefits of the Wilcom embroidery engine designer system, and some other great posts such as Streamline Your Business. And Amber has gone out there into the world of Instagram and pulled out some of our 20 favorite Instagram accounts for you to browse through and have a look. So again, head over to our website, DecoNetwork.com/newsletter, put in your email address, and we'll make sure you get a copy of our newsletter as it comes out on a monthly basis. So that's it for a bit of an update on where we are. And we might jump into a couple of our Deco tips before we jump over and have a chat to Neil about Deco and where we're going in the future. So Mietek, you want to talk about how to set product default sizing. Do you want to jump on your screen and we'll go through that now?
Absolutely. So let me share my screen here really quick. It's going to be a simple tip, but the important one. That this is one of those questions that when you check on the support tickets or phone calls, this question is being asked. So by default, when you set up your DecoNetwork online presence, your website, and you will select either the blank product or decorate product, the way it works is, from the logical standpoint, in my opinion, it works in the expected way, because you are actually selecting an actual item, and it comes with the default size, which is, in this case, for example, it's a medium size. And maybe I want 6 of medium and 5 for large. That said, I can see how the fact that you actually have medium selected by default may actually mislead your end users. When you select the extra large, you may actually think that you've only selected the extra large, not noticing that the medium is selected. So for this, to prevent this from happening, there is actually an option in DecoNetwork that allows you to do it. For that to happen, you gotta go to Manage Fulfillment and go to the Settings page. Under the Settings page, look for the Product Settings section and look for the section code, for the page called Blank Product Display. And on the next page, you're gonna find this option here, Products Set to Default Size. If you will switch that to No and save the changes, let's see what's gonna happen. So I go back to my store. I will select the very same product, and right now you can actually see that none of the sizes are selected by default. So if I would just click Add to Cart, it will actually ask me, you must enter a product size in order to proceed. So that was my simple tip for today.
Very cool.
I feel it's useful.
Yeah, nice and simple. And again, it's something we get asked quite a lot. And there are a lot of back-end features on Deco which give you that bit of control and variables, I guess, to change on how your website is looked and presented. And I think it's fair to say in version 8, part of our mission is to bring a lot of those features forward and make those features more accessible. So hopefully a lot of those secret little gems will be pulled forward and be a little bit more obvious in the UI for people to use and start making use of on their Deco site. So thanks, Mietek. Yep. Cool tip. So I'll switch over to my tip now, which actually came from a question from a customer. And it's a fairly common scenario, so I thought it'd be pretty good to share. So obviously in DecoNetwork on your front-end site, when you choose a blank product and you add a design to it, it adds in a decoration price. And it's quite common that based on what area you choose, it might give a different price. So take screen printing, for example. In screen printing, you might have a price list for your full body print, which is like a large, A4 size or letter size print. then you might have a different price table, whether they put a design on a small chest on the left or right chest, or even a different price table for your back or for your sleeves. And that's an existing price model that you have in your business, and you want to reproduce that in DecoNetwork. Well, there's a few things you have to do. Of course, you have to set up your different decoration prices table, and we'll show you a little bit about that. And then you have to then assign that different decoration price to each area on your product. And I'll quickly show you how to do that as well. So the first thing you need to do is obviously log into your backend DecoNetwork as the administrator, so you get access to your managed fulfillment section, and then click through to settings. And then in this case, we're going to modify our screen print price table. So I'm going to click down on the screen printing decoration process, and we're going to go down to price tables. Now, you can have as many different price tables as you want. The different reasons for the price tables might be that, as I've mentioned, a different decoration area. It might be a whole different product. So you might have a different price table for your leather products, or for maybe your towels or your blankets or whatever it might be. There's a different production cost to you for doing those, either by time or effort. So you want to charge differently for those. So you can have as many as you want. First thing I'll do is I'll make my 2 price tables. I'll just click on Add Price Table. And as we mentioned before, we've got now different ways of pricing, area-based versus standard pricing. The difference being standard pricing doesn't care how big the artwork is. It just charges by the area and quantity you use, compared to area-based pricing, which looks at the physical artwork and says, you know, that artwork is a 4 square inch artwork or a 10 square inch artwork, and it charges a per square inch fee for that. To keep this simple, we'll just do standard pricing, and we'll click OK. And at that point, we can give it a name. Now, just so that I easily understand what they are, I'll give them simple names. So we'll call this our small area pricing. And at that point in time, you can then specify what each of your prices are for the number of colors in the design. So be it 1 color design, 2 color, 3 color, and by the number of quantities. Being a smaller area, I'm going to keep these prices just by the default to keep it simple, but I can go through and modify those. When I'm finished with that, I just save that away. Now I'm going to create a second price table. And again, I'll use standard as well. And I'll call this a large area pricing. And I might just increase the price a little bit on that. So make that 7, make that 6, make that 5.6, 5, 4.5, 4, and 3.5, and 3.2. Make whatever prices you want, adjust them accordingly to your existing price tables that you have in your business, and then save that away. So now I've got 2 price tables. Again, one for the larger body area and one for kind of the smaller areas, be it left chest, sleeve, or whatever it might be. Now I need to go and assign those to a particular product. So I'm going to browse through to my products. I'm going to change my Gildan 2000. So I'll search for 2000. And there's my Gildan product. Now to adjust the decoration pricing, I click on the pricing tab, and on here I can see the price breakdown of that particular product. So I can see the cost from my supplier, my markup, which happens to be 87%, or I can override that and put my own default real life price there, which I've done here, just $10 flat rate for that. Then I've got my decoration pricing, and here it's picking up the default price from whatever default screen table I've got set up. I'm going to go into this cog here, and I'm going to click on Use Custom Decoration Pricing Advanced, and then click on Edit. And then by default, it shows me a high-level screen of where it's getting the price from. So for my rhinestone, it's using a single flat price of 5. For my DTG, it's using a price table. And for my screen printing, it's also using a price table for all the areas, and it's using my original default apparel printing prices table. Well, I'm going to go into Advanced. What this does do is give me the same view essentially, but expanded over each area of the product. So now I've got my front view with the body, left chest, right chest, and my back view with the back view. And again, with each decoration process and how they're actually getting the price for that particular product. Now I'm modifying my screen print section over here, which is the screen print part here. Again, the body area is using the apparel price table. so is the left chest, and so is the right chest. So I'm going to turn off the defaults because I don't want to use the defaults, and I want to specify my own particular price table. So for the front, I want to use the large area price table because that's the larger area with the highest prices. And for the left and right chest, I want to change that to use the small area price table. And I can do the same for the back as well. Turn that off, select that out, and choose the large pricing area. And when I click OK, then it'll go through, update, save that, click save and continue. And next time my customer goes online and buys that product, if they choose the large area, the body or the back, it will use my large printing price table. And if they choose the small area, it will use my small area printing price table. So a simple tip, but we'll let you get control of the pricing as you want it to do and give you the exact pricing you want to charge for your customer. That's my
This is a great tip. This is a great tip. In fact, I'm being sentimental because that was the topic on which I wrote my very first blog post. And I just Googled it very quick. That was 4 years ago. Wow. It's still there. I don't recommend anyone to read this anymore because it's a bit outdated. So use this tip from Brenden instead. Just one addition to that, Brenden. I think it will be worthwhile to explain like if for whatever reason you want to use the different price tables for DTG, and on this screen you have seen that there is a single price, how would you change that so you can actually see the price tables as the default choice instead of the simple price? Yeah, I think it would be good to actually look into it really quick.
Sure, good question. So all your pricing or your defaults for your pricing is kept in one area because it is an area that you might want to go in and have a look at all your pricing in one view. And you do that by, again, browsing back to settings. And then under decoration settings, you've got each different area, but then you've got down the bottom here your decoration pricing. If you click on here, at the top level is where you can set your defaults, which will appear on any new products that you might add to your system. We did talk about in a previous episode the concept of flat, being that when you tick that on, every product would just be $10 to decorate, regardless of what decoration process it is. But obviously the most common is advanced, and at that point you can set all your defaults. So by Mietek's question, for DTG pricing, it may be set to a single price by default. How do you set it to a price table by default? You change it to price table and then go and select one of the existing price tables that you've already got created. Now you can't create the price tables from here. They are created in that previous screen that I showed you. So for my DTG, I would browse through to settings. Then I'd browse through to printing, which is DTG settings, and then I'd click on price tables, and I'll be able to generate as many as I want there. But yeah, again, back to settings, click on decoration pricing, and this is where you set all your defaults. But like I just showed, you can go in on a product by product level or an area by area level and override those and set down onto that particular level exactly what you want to do.
That's great.
Good question.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks Mietek for those tips and added question. Now I guess it's time to really jump into part of our show that we always enjoy, where we get to bring on a guest and have a chat to them about their life, how they got into this industry called the decoration industry. And as we mentioned earlier, we have Neil Pentland on the line over in our US office, who's also co-founder and chairman of the company. To get your bit of a history, kind of what got you into this path, what began the journey of what is now known as DecoNetwork.
Thanks for that, Brenden. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, one of those little cartoons about, stop me if you've heard this one, but yeah, well, I actually started into the internet provisions of technology going back in 1996, where the genesis of DecoNetwork started. And at that time, Mark, who is still our guru of technology, was with me at that point as well. He was still finishing off his university course. And we started off, we started an internet service provision company, and we started doing website weaver and all sorts of e-commerce applications right back in 1997. So come a fair journey to there, and we evolved to where we were doing enterprise development, and we created our own way of doing things back up until around about 2005. and we found ourselves competing against IBM and the big players. And when you're a little organisation coming out of the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia, you find that competing against IBM is not a good place to find yourself.
Yeah.
So we made the choice there that we would do something, and it had to be fun, and we had to have control over it, because when we were operating as Golden Orb Technologies, as we were back then, we were sort of contracting and sort of providing our own infrastructure to do it all, but we were at the hands of our customers in terms of they'd specify something, they didn't understand what they were specifying, and the journey just never ended, and it just wasn't fun. So we came down, we had a look around, we were completely open to doing anything, and it just so happened that we decided that whatever we were going to do, we were going to do it so that we could rapidly create something and then get a feedback for it. Well, we did that, and it was an application called Picky Pimp, and believe it or not, we released it out there, and it's pretty commonplace now, but going back in 2004, 2005, to get an application where you could go on, take a picture of yourself and pimp it up with a beard and a thought bubble, and etc. That was pretty unusual at the time. And when we released that, we actually, 1 week after releasing it, if you'd have put Picky Pimp into Google, you'd have got over 1 million hits. So we thought, wow, this is something pretty special. And along the journey that we started from that point, we decided that we thought it would be a good idea if people were able to print what they were seeing and creating in Picky Pimp. And then we searched around the industry, and we discovered Zazzle and Cafe Press, and we thought they are just the future of this industry. So we were pretty cocky about ourselves, and we thought, well, let's compete against them, because we thought we could create better technology than they have, and we were pretty confident that we could do that. So that started our journey, and we quickly created our first instance of DecoNetwork. It was called Picky Central back then, and in our journey from that, we actually bought some machines to learn how to actually do the printing, sublimating, and all those elements. And then we had our application out there, and then we quickly learnt that it wasn't about the technology, it was about why Zazzle and Cafe Press are so successful, is that they have the great technology that allows people to buy from them in a much better manner, but they were also spending a couple of $1 million a month in advertising. And we just realised that we were never going to compete against them. It was just not a possibility. So we'd gone down this path, we had all this great technology, the foundations of it created, and then in discussing with people from within the industry, they were saying, well, we can't afford to build this, so what are we going to do? So we engaged with initially a couple of DTG, direct-to-garment printers, and a sublimator, and we learnt what they needed, and we provided what we'd created to them. Instead of them having to invest a huge amount of money into it, they paid us a monthly subscription fee, and away we went. And at that time, I had really fabulous ideas about what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, and then reality struck that as we progressed, we discovered that the need was much greater than we expected, because initially we just thought of ourselves as being an online designer. People come in, design something, and end of story. No, that's just the beginning of the story. And along the way, we started to build the business hub, and that's where you have the front end, which is all about taking the order, but it's the back end, which is really the magic of DecoNetwork. And that's where the real value of DecoNetwork comes to its fore, because it's one thing to take an order, it's another thing to be able to deliver it, follow it through the system and deliver it out to the customer in a timely manner, and without all the errors and the mistakes which generally happen in our industry.
Yeah.
So that was the journey. Now, the journey is, in my imagination, only really just begun now, because as you've heard, as you've stated there, you're releasing 7.5. We're releasing 7.5 very soon.
Yep.
And that's going to include an SVG engine for our designer. To me, being the technology side of our business, that's because that's from whence I've come, I'm extremely excited about this, because the SVG engine driving our designer, I believe it's quite an advancement on anything else that I've seen out there, able to manage and manipulate files and designs and create an SVG file format. So for me, that's really exciting. But if I take a step back and look at what DecoNetwork is, we've engaged with the custom decoration industry. That includes screen printers. And by the way, it's only mildly included screen printers until now, because there has been some shortcomings with our designer in one manner, in one particular way, and that is that we haven't been able to identify the colours and break them down in the manner that is required for screen printing. We're able to do it at the back end, and there's no problems when you're using screen printing to run your business now, because you know those things yourself. So,
yeah.
But to automatically do that required a complete rewrite, and that's what we've done at this point in time. So that's exciting as well with the SVG engine. So just in the step back of the service that's out there, and talking to our customer base as to what they need, we've discovered that the need is just ongoing. And as you identified there, we're releasing upgrades or enhancements, improvements. It's a continuum. And that's at the front end, which people actually see.
Yep.
But for me, being the technology part of it, I get excited about what we do at the back end that nobody sees.
Yep.
Like, I was having this discussion with Mietek just in the last couple of days. We were just talking about we've in Australia, there was a huge kerfuffle that they tried to do the online census, and the whole system failed. And it was claimed initially that it was a denial of service attack called a DOS attack. And that brought down the whole collection of census data that they were doing for the very first time in Australia via the internet. And it's left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Now, only probably, it might be a year ago now, we actually experienced a DOS attack against DecoNetwork. It was pretty scary, I can tell you, at the time. Poor Mark, as I said, he was the founding technology guru in our company. He was put under so much pressure, and for an hour, we were our service was denied. And we understood there that we could not possibly allow this to ever happen again, because everybody that we do provide the services for, they depend upon us. So as a consequence of that, we went out and searched for a service that actually could provide that protection for our customers, for our licensees. And indeed, we've got now protection for denial of service attack. But the excitement for me is in the fact of the value we deliver to our customers. Because if our customers were to get a denial of service attack protection from the company that we've employed because we went and looked for the best, for one website, that would cost them a minimum of $400 per month. So you imagine you've got a website with us. If you wanted to go and get that to make certain there that you're up all the time, it would actually cost you $400 a month. we only charge, we start at $99 a month and go up to $399 a month if you've got 200 websites. So imagine if you had 200 websites paying $400 a month, that's $800,000 a month that you would be paying for that sort of protection, which we provide all within your $3.99, whatever your subscription is to us. Yep. So that excites me as a company. I feel very frustrated that our licensees don't understand this, and this is just one element that we provide under the hood, as it were. And
Neil, so just to, I think we're actually losing you. You keep leaning back and your head's going off screen.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so if you can maybe angle your camera down a bit. You're slowly tripping out of view.
Yeah. I'm sitting in one of those little rocking chairs sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like my passion from day one has always been about the technology. I know you, Brenden, you're the evangelist for our customers. You've come to our company and you present their side of the world, and indeed you're the evangelist, and you've gotten all of us to understand the industry so much better than we understood nearly 11 years ago. You've brought the experience of our customers, their wants, their needs, and you actually drive our product so as that all that understanding and knowledge is driven through what we deliver as a technology package. And if I was going to define what is the difference between DecoNetwork and any of the other companies out there that are providing services, it is the very fact that we, at our core, are a technology company. We were a technology company that has decided to focus on this industry. We've come from an enterprise background, and we're providing that sort of technology right down to a mum and dad starting off from the very beginnings to somebody out in the virtual garage starting their business, right through to businesses that employ quite a few people and doing lots. We've very conscious to make everything we do being scalable, quick, and we're very mindful, as I just said, with the DOS protection. We've got other protections which I'm not necessarily going to reveal, but they do protect our clients under the hood in many, many ways. And also, as part of that, we don't just have one server farm out there. We've actually got server farms that actually back up the data 3 times. So everybody's presence that are using DecoNetwork, if something, God forbid, does go wrong, if we do go down for whatever reason, just say our server, and by the way, our server farms are located with Pier 1, and Pier 1 is one of the premium service providers in the United States of America, and indeed they used to host Google before Google became Google and did all their own stuff. So, they're pretty good. They know what they're doing, but you never know. Something could happen.
Yep.
But if and when it does, our clients are well protected because we've got not just one lot of their data, we've got 3 lots of their data backed up, and we do that virtually continually, day in, day out. Another part to that is that we have versions of our software being used, and we have beta testers out there that are testing everything before our version gets released. And the beauty of that for our customers, our licensees, is they don't have to endure the server going down because we're just updating it. They don't have to endure like we've just done a new release and there's 25,000 bugs which have got to be fixed up. Generally, we attend to most of that. I'm not saying that software is without bugs. It's by virtual the fact that that's reality. However, they're filtered out a long way. As I said, stop me if you've heard this one. I tend to carry on.
No, it's all good. Yeah. In fact, that's one thing I noticed different about Deco. Joining the company, and it is, I think, the fact that the history of the company, or the DNA of the company, is built around large, sophisticated, scalable systems. And it's not just, we like to use the term a brochure tick. You can have a brochure which says, yes, I've got an online designer. Yes, I've got products. Yes, I've got stock designs. Yes, I've got this and that. But it's behind that, the technology that is built upon, and the depth of the detail that has gone into each of the features is what impressed me the most when I first joined Deco. And it's always that fun experience when you're with a customer and they're asking you a question, how do you do your price tables? And then you show them, and they're kind of blown away with the amount of depth and the thought that's gone into how it's done. Because it's one thing to have a price table, it's one thing to have a price table design for what you want to use it for. Right. And I think, again, that's back to the depth of Deco.
Yeah. In other words, we don't do things just to check the tick box, right?
Yeah. It might take longer, but when we get there, it definitely does have that kind of in-depth, polished feel to them. So.
Yep, and that actually gives us a lot of pleasure. When we adventure out there and do new releases and put product out into the marketplace changes, when sometimes they're not received in the manner we're hoping for, we actually take it to heart. We don't just think, well, they don't understand and we don't care. You might know. I invite you to have Greg. Greg, by the way, is our project manager that project manages DecoNetwork. And if we release something and it gets a less than a positive reception, he's just not a happy person until he turns it around. And by the very nature of that, before you receive most anything, the testing that goes into it and the beta testing, and the alpha and the beta testing, is quite deep, much deeper than I've observed that any of the other players in our market are, because from my observation, all the other people that are providing the services to licensees have come from the industry, and they've got these really good ideas. Mostly it's been my observation they've seen what DecoNetwork has been doing and think that they can do it better, and they've actually gone out and contracted technologists to create and do the coding for them. And that's okay, except when you're doing that, the core, the really foundation of what you're going to deliver, if you're building a house and you didn't build your foundations correctly in the first place, if you know from day one that the house is going to need to be a 10-story house, and you start building it as though it's a single-level house, well, that's great. But when you discover that you're going to build a second story onto it, you're in a bit of bother. And if you're going to put a 10th story onto it, it just doesn't work. And that's what we've discovered in our observation of where the others in this industry that claim many of the things we claim, where their fall down is it wasn't designed correctly in the first place. So when something's going to work, if you take our technology right at the moment, we're pushing 2 million lines of code, and things within one part of our system that can be, you've just talked about your pricing tables, and the multitude of variables within those pricing tables. But changing those pricing tables, they touch so many parts of our system. And so if you change it in one place, it changes in literally hundreds of places. Now, if you haven't designed the thing in the first place to cope with all that, it means there that you really can't have that interconnection. So you can't afford to let it affect everywhere. So you end up having, this will do part of the job, and then I've got to go somewhere else and do another part of the job, and somewhere else in the technology do another part of the job. That's all very good, but at some stage, those Band-Aids don't work anymore. Yeah. And as I just said, that's the thing under the hood that I'm quite proud of what we're creating is that the actual architecture of what we're doing, it's in-house. It's by one of the founders. Well, it's not by one. There's Greg and Mark jointly are involved in this, but it's Mark's our guru. But we've got a significant team of really, really good developers there that they've been with us now over quite a considerable time, and they love just working with us because we're always doing new things.
Free beer on Fridays. Is that the reason?
Pardon?
Yeah.
Because you offer free beers on Fridays.
And table tennis.
Yeah, well, that's something that we probably should have a conversation about, because I've just come across here to Atlanta, and in Australia, on the Gold Coast where we are, our boardroom, we got rid of the boardroom table out of our boardroom. We put in a table tennis table in there, and each Friday we actually have a table tennis tournament that starts in the morning and goes through until the afternoon. Everybody plays a round robin of table tennis, and by the afternoon we get a winner. It's all handicapped. The handicaps range from I think Greg, before he injured his back surfing, was about -10. He's now, I think, a 1. And Ryan, who hadn't played table tennis before, he plays off. He used to play off 19. You only have to get to 21. Now he's down to about 12. So that's all handicapped. But we do this every Friday, and then we have comes around about 2 or 3 o'clock. We have a few beers and have some refreshments, and that's all part and parcel of being DecoNetwork. And I've been having discussions with Mietek since I've arrived, and indeed there's a boardroom table here. We're not going to throw the boardroom table out. We're actually we're doing a bit smarter this time. We're going to get a table tennis top that'll fit on top of the boardroom table, and so they'll be able to use for table tennis, and the boardroom is used for a training as well. So we'll be able to use it through the week, and then comes whenever we'll be able to turn it into the table tennis room rather than the boardroom.
Yeah, my handicap is actually the game of table tennis itself. So I've learned that one. So. Oh, by the way, Neil, we are losing you again. Your head's sliding off.
All right.
Netherlands.
I'm leaning back again.
Yeah. On the topic of release cycles, actually, we do tend to talk about things fairly early. That's because we do go through at least 4 running versions of the product before it goes out the door. So you've got obviously what the developer's working on in their own local environment. That then gets tested internally on another local environment, then to our alpha server where we can get really early access to it, to our beta server where we open it up to customers to get access to it, and then finally out to the live server. So really there's 5 runnings of it, and it gets pretty much ironed out of bugs from that point. Things go wrong. That's the nature of life and development. But another important thing to point out, I guess, which when you're dealing with a business and you're online, and your business requires the software, which people that use DecoNetwork require DecoNetwork to be running at all times, is even as we do the new updates, we don't bring the system down. So we don't turn off the system and send out an email and say, look, the system will be down between 1 and 2 at this particular time because we have to do an update. Because 1 or 2 is always peak selling period somewhere in the world, no matter where it is. So we don't bring Deco down. It always runs, and we just pump out the update, and you just get the seamless free updates as it goes through each time we do the release.
Yeah, and that excites me.
Takes away the support headache, that's for sure. So,
well,
now there is.
Sorry, I was just going to say that's a conversation in and of itself that I would enjoy in some future time you're sharing with everyone.
Yeah, I did actually think this morning we should talk a little about where we're going with our support and that, and yeah, that is definitely a full topic. We'll do a show on that one. But we are obviously going to be running out of time pretty soon. But I know there's a part of the software that I think eventually you're going to get us to tattoo it on our arms so we don't forget. And I think it's a really, really good thing to talk about. I'll let you introduce it, and then I'll click over and I'll share the screen as well.
Great. What raised this up was I was watching the 2 tips, and I thought those 2 tips were great. They're fabulous. But there's one tip that I would want to share with everybody that I think trumps them all, and it's the ability to actually find anything within DecoNetwork. And for me, I've got challenged by one of our directors. He told me that if we're going to succeed, we have to make it as simple as Google. And I said to him, that is just never, ever, ever going to happen, because well, Google is Google, and we can't get there because our system is just so involved, et cetera, et cetera. And going back now, it's been in development for the last 3 years, and the next iteration in version 8 is going to be mind-blowingly better again. However, we've reached a stage where there's a universal search in our system. And if you'd like to demonstrate what that's about and how awesome it is, because I just advise anybody, if you're going to seek help, before you do, just type in to the universal search and you'll be amazed what comes back. So do you just want to give it a rundown for that?
Yeah, sure. So it's somewhat of a bit of a hidden feature and function, which is up here in the main toolbar. And we'll talk a little bit about where it's going in version 8 as well in a moment. But, as Neil said, the level and complexity of DecoNetwork is not because it's DecoNetwork, it's because our industry is very deep and complex. I was speaking to a client yesterday, and his pricing model seems common until you start getting into it, and then you realize how different it can be and how many variables there can be. And we need those variables because everyone does things a little bit differently. And if we don't support that, then we're not supporting their business model. But it does mean, for example, let's say you want to update your tax settings. You've had a tax change, and that's something you don't really touch all the time because taxes don't change too often, and it could be hard to find or locate. Well, using universal search, it's as simple as going up to the search bar up here and just type in, tax, for example, as the keyword I'm looking for, and straight away pops up various things. It first of all shows any help topics related to what you're looking for. So straight away you get access to the article to tell you what to do. If there's any apps that relate to tax or use tax in any particular way, it shows you some add-on apps you can put in Deco. But then more importantly, it takes you directly to the section where you want to go. So in here, there's 2 pages that talk about taxes. There's the product default, which probably talks about tax exemption, I imagine. And then there's the taxes page itself. And then it even looks down and says, hey, we found a tax called Happy Tax. So I'm actually showing you a tax called Happy Tax. Now, if that was a client and the name was Frank Tax, it'll have another column here saying customer Frank Tax. And if there was an order with an order number with the word tax in it, the orders will also appear here as well. So you not only get your help, your apps, your pages, your taxes, you also get your customers and your orders as well. So for this point of view, I don't need to go looking for it. I just click on tax, and it will take me directly to that page, and there I am. I can start doing whatever tweaks and changes I need to do, and yeah, without having to know the system, you get quick access to everything. Or as Neil kind of likes to put it, you Google your way to the feature, but within Deco.
Yeah, and I just invite people to open themselves to thinking. You've got a customer on the line. Quite often, customers are not the best people to tell you everything that they need to tell you. And as a consequence, you only have to take their name, and all of a sudden, like Brenden just did a search for Brenden in there, and it just brings everything up about that customer. Or if they see in there that's everything relative to Brenden in the system. If it was a particular order, you'd only have to put the order number in there, and bang, it'll take you straight to the order. So you're talking real time on there with a customer. You put that in, and up comes their order, and you're able to communicate to them where that order is in the system, and if they've got any queries about it, you can just answer them straight away there and then. And that is just such a powerful way to be able to interact with your customers.
Yeah.
And I'm just so over the moon with that.
Yeah. And in version 8, as Neil said, we're taking that a step further. We're adding a metric load more help articles and videos. So a big part of version 8 is not just the usability of the system and getting access to these features and functions, but giving you the resources on top of that to get access to the information and learn how to use the system. So probably not on the next one, but maybe the episode thereafter, we'll definitely do a more deeper overview of version 8 and where it's going. And this universal search as well will come through and be a part of Business Hub as well. So at the moment, it's only in the backend fulfillment center. We're going to bring that through and make it a standard part of the system across the board. But even while you're here, I've launched into this. I typed in an order number. I can link onto here, and it will take me directly to Business Hub and grab that order for me straight away. So yeah, all integrated. Really in its infancy in version 7, but you really see it shine come version 8. So yep. Neil's tip of the forever, I guess. Not of the day, not of the century, forever. So.
Yep.
So we are, like I said, running out of time. But it would be a crime not to, I guess, get your insights on where we're going. Obviously, there's certain things we can and can't reveal. We're a company, we are competing out there in a marketplace. But your elevator pitch, where do you see us heading to, and what's the future for Deco and our customers?
Right. Well, as I said to you at the very beginning, where we're going is based upon the foundations of what we've built when it's already been built, because whilst we're engaging and we're always listening to our licensees, we're always looking at the forums, we're sort of trying to understand what's they believe is needed and what we think they need. But it was when we started this many years ago, we had a vision there that the ability to service our licensees' customers needs to be paramount. And that service that's needed, there's a multitude of variables that is going to come into there. If you look at Zazzle and Cafe Press, they were going to eat the industry up because they're able to provide a buying experience to their customers that, unless you invested into a technology like they have and spent many millions of dollars, it was always going to be their advantage. Now it's no longer their advantage because we're here, and we're focused much more on our licensees not only retaining their existing customers, but giving their existing customers and their locality a huge advantage over anything that Zazzle and Cafe Press can deliver to the wider audience. That's not to say that you can't compete against them, because there is all these, we have our stores that enables us to, our licensees to focus on particular business models. And into the future, I see that's going to be very much where we're going to be traveling, so as that simply within DecoNetwork you'll be able to have the parameters of your business model that you want to achieve, and the complexities that are needed to create a website and a web front to able to manage those will be part and parcel of where DecoNetwork is going to deliver it to each of our licensees. So that's one direction. We are looking very much about the outsourcing. We've got a solution for outsourcing now, but we do see that very much into the future going to be something that our licensees, if they're going to really have the success that we want for each of them, that ability to be able to offer virtually the widest range of services above and beyond what they do themselves is going to be essential. And we're looking. We're not saying we're going to be there next year even, but it's coming. And when it does come, it'll work, and it'll work very successfully. And you alluded to version 8 from our front end. What's going to happen there, the back end that's coming. I'm just so over the moon with what that is all going to be about. we've wanted to address many of these things for quite a while, but we have this huge schedule board, and unfortunately, as you become smarter, there's a price you pay. You are not as dynamic as what you'd want to be, because the reality is this: if we didn't have any customers, and we've got a hell of a lot of them, and we could say, oh well, we'll launch it. We'll launch what we've already created now. That would actually be possible. But the problem is, it wouldn't be backwards compatible. So all our existing customers would be like we're treating them horribly, because they wouldn't have access to it, and everything that they've got wouldn't seamlessly just be part of the new system. So our challenge is always to make certain there that whatever our customers have achieved now, they've got that, they can bring their history and bring everything with them. So we've always got to be mindful of that. And believe it or not, that actually takes longer than creating the technology itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we're very keen to show a lot of what we're doing in version 8, and we'll start releasing a few more of those teasers as we go along. But I guess it is a challenge. You know, we started off just doing DTG printing, and then we did sublimation, and now we're doing embroidery, and then rhinestone and transfer and screen print, and each one of them has their own market segment of demands and needs. So you know, the pie does get sliced up a little bit thinner, but you know, always our mission and goal is to, whatever we do, make sure we do it proper and deep. So it might take a little bit longer, but when we get there, as always, people say we tend to tick the boxes that they're after. So I'm excited about what's coming.
One very important thing, as you mentioned, Brenden, is to actually emphasize on the fact that we treat each one of those aspects of the industry very individually. So if we do changes to the embroidery, we think about embroidery. If we're talking about screen printing, it's actually specifically for the screen printing, for rhinestones, etc., etc. Not everyone does that. It's always easier to say that you just do printing, and whatever you mean by it, it's on you. But it will never be as good as something that is specifically created for DTG or sublimation, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to just share one other thing, which I'm really proud that we're going to be able to deliver in the next version, and perhaps we'll even we've started to deliver the elements of it even before the next version. We pointed out, and you pointed out, all the variables that are with pricing, with shipping, with everything. It is, there's a pretty solid learning curve to be able to get up and be happy within yourself there that you've got a knowledge and understanding of it all. We've been looking at this and we've been told constantly that it's too complex, it's too hard, and to some degree I understand where people are coming from, because just take it, if you're a small mum and dad or a small startup and you don't have any industry knowledge, but you know that I can sell these for $10, for instance, you're not concerned about the margins and the proper pricing. You just want to sell it for $10. Well, we've been told this time and time and time again, and we've been wanting, but when you've got a system as complex as ours is, that all the variables need to be understood so as that the system can automatically work things out, it's always seemed a journey too far for us. Well, Brenden's led and Mietek's input to this blew me away as he showed and demonstrated that you can actually create a quote using our system without doing one single solitary bit of setting up. So we took that on board, and we've now, with simple pricing, we've got an element to be able to use our system without setting anything up, and you're just using simple pricing. And it's from that And I'll hand this over to you, Brenden, so you can give a better explanation. I'm not as good at communicating things as you are. But we're doing the same for taxes. We're doing the same for shipping. And that's going to mean that somebody that starts using DecoNetwork from virtually day one, from the very first day, will be able to produce a quote and have it out there from the very start. Now, we're releasing elements of those, and by version 8, the full suite of that will be available. So do you just want to give a little bit of insight to that if you've got any time,
Yeah,
Brenden?
sure. Yeah, so we spoke a little bit about it in previous podcasts. So obviously the flat pricing for decoration pricing, and the big advantage of that, as Neil just said, is we've always designed DecoNetwork to account for the many variables in a business, and many businesses, medium, small, large, have lots of variables, lots of ways of pricing, and that does create complexity both in the system and also creates complexity in the business. And there are some businesses that just don't want that. They just have a T-shirt plus $10 pricing, and they can click on it and add a price and override it at any point in time. And that's now what we have in Deco through the flat pricing. So when you're in Business Hub and you're doing a quote, you no longer need to have to worry about complex price tables. You can just click on a price field and type in it's $5, and it will remember that for next time. And you can even give it a label, so you'll call it new left chest $5, back $10, and it just becomes a variable that you can select in Business Hub on the fly. And we've shown that on the previous podcast. What we're doing in version 8 is extending that further and making more of those type of fields available. A good example would be shipping or tax, where you're just going through and you need to just modify your tax settings because you don't have a default or your tax varies based on where you sell. Instead of having to go back through DecoNetwork, reconfigure your tax and refresh Business Hub, you can now make that change directly in Business Hub. Just click on the tax field, type in a new value, and it updates it live and can even save it away for future use. And I guess what it actually does is kind of removes the shackles off you. So currently everything has to be preset, and then you load Business Hub and you get access to it. Well, you can still preset that, but now we're giving you the control within Business Hub to pretty much override anything and go and modify those changes and price and basically do business exactly the way you want to do it. So what does it say? That the simplest things are always the hardest to achieve, and it's we've always accounted for the complexity and the detail of the industry. It's now just a matter of stripping it back and making it really simple to use. But yeah, thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Brenden. I really appreciate that explanation because I tend to waffle on too much. But that's the core of this. It's delivering a value proposition to our licensees that answers their need. And we haven't had our head in the sand, but it's like the universal search, the challenge when one of our directors challenged us to create that. I just thought it was a journey too far. And I've got to say, until I saw Mietek really just show us how you can create a quote from just straight off the bat, you load up DecoNetwork and create a quote now, instantly, without one bit of setup. Until I saw that, I just didn't get my head around properly the possibilities. And with Brenden scoping it out with Greg to detail out what it needs to be, and the feedback from Mietek and Alex to make certain that we're getting everything scoped out properly. That's been part of this journey towards version 8, that we've sort of there's a multitude of goodies in it, but to me that's one of the most exciting things, and it may seem the most trivial to people, but it's the complexity to produce that trivial thing is quite a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly can't wait to start showing it. It's quite frustrating. You read the comments in the forum and people want to see it and you want to show them, but yeah, pretty soon we'll start releasing some teasers and get it out there for people to see.
Yep.
So thank you. All right. We are definitely over time, but it's been good and we have a lot more to talk about. You're in the States for another 6 weeks, is it? Six to 8 weeks?
5 weeks it is. As Mietek explained, I was here for 8 weeks, so it's 5 to go. I thought I'd only been here for 2.
Time flies. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely get you on for one of the future shows before you wrap up and head back home. And probably by then we'll have a little bit more to show on version 8 as well. So it'd be good to go through and give them a tour of that.
Yep, look forward to it.
Cool.
The only one and only comment for last, probably for Neil, the lower third, it's not going to be the lower third. You'll probably have to be the upper third. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's fine.
It's just lean back chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool,
Okay.
good. All right, thanks guys. Appreciate your time, and thanks again for tuning into the Deco Show. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a good one.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye now.